Welcome everyone back to Beat the Game. My name's Steve, and it's time to talk deck strategy with Scarlet Witch. And we're going to start these deck building strategies, and we're going to go into aggression. Now, remember, there's a bunch of subtypes in aggression. You know, there's the Juggernaut strategy, and there's also the Avengers support strategy. So this is where I think Wanda lies. I think Avengers support is where she is going to really be super powerful, but she can also be very powerful if you want to jam pack her deck with like these really powerful event cards. Now, the only thing about running her deck with a lot of events is then you will not get to see her better events, which we know, like, we won't be able to see truly her mechanic of, you know, chaos control and using her hex bolts and stuff like that. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to be spending most of your time using aggression for the aggression cards, for resource cards, for her cards. So because she has such powerful events, I think that is going to be a very determining factor if you want to play her in aggression. So again, let's look at some of the event cards that could be really good with her. Now, one of the strategies, I played it with Brand from the Portal. We just played, I can't remember who we played against Crossbones. And I went for an Avengers support strategy, and it worked super nice. It was very good. I thinned out my deck on my first deck pass, and by the end of the second deck pass, it was just gas. So it was very cool. So it's a little bit of a setup turn, but once she's set up and she had like 14 health and everything, so a lot of good neutral cards. But we're gonna focus right now just on the aggression cards for her and what can make her amazing. So if we're looking at cards in her pool of cards, I would recommend the powers of, but let's look at a deck. First of all, Chase Them Down. I don't think, even though it's a very cool card, I don't think it's a card that needs to be in her deck, because with her Thwart of 2 and with her Hex Bolts that can remove threat, Chase Them Down is not going to be a card you want to put in. It doesn't have a good effect as what you would want. So that one for me is out. For me, what it could be in, Moment of Triumph. Now, I would only run one in my deck. Again, if you want to play her in aggression, I think one Moment of Triumph, if you play that molecular decay, and then you hit a minion, or you hit the boss for like I don't know, 10, 11, or even 7 or 8 on a minion, and you're like, oh man, I could heal. I don't really want to flip down. I have this warp reality, and I don't want to spend it. But having a card like Moment of Triumph, no more than one. Like, I definitely don't recommend any more than one in a deck. But this can just bring your health back up. You know, if you're like, oh man, I have to heal because I took a lot of hits. And I'm like, okay, Moment of Triumph can just keep you in the game. And again, one of in your deck is more than enough for me. Get Over Here is not a card I would play with her just because she doesn't have the aerial trait, and she doesn't really care about having more minions. Same for Mean Swing. I don't really think I'll be playing Yawnborn that much with her. She has more mental resources in her deck than physical. So I think for me, Mean Swing is a definite out. Same for Stealth Strike. She's not going to be attacking, to be honest. And if you're attacking with her, well, good for you. But I don't really think having more of these little event cards is going to be worth it in your deck. Toe-to-toe could be good if you have guard minions. So this is maybe a one of in the deck that I would consider. This is just to remove guards, and I would not play this if there was no guards. All right, so if there's some guards in the deck, then toe-to-toe maybe one. If this is a scenario like Norman Osborn that has a lot of guards, even Kang has a lot of those macro bots. So, you know, they attack you for 2, and then you just take them out. I wouldn't use this against the villain. I would actually just use this for guard removal. That's how I would play this. So I would only put one in. I know press the advantage looks interesting, especially if I play a hex bolt and I get a boost of 3 and then I can, do 2 damage and draw another card. But if you think about it, you have to get the boost of 3. You're adding a lot of variables to what you want to do just to maybe draw a card. So for me, again, this does not make the cut. You'll pay for that. Again, it's not an event that will... I don't want to really take damage with her. She has 10 health. It's not the best, and I don't really want to have to recover too much. So you'll pay for that. For me, is not an event that I think is going to make it. Again, like I said, it's very hard. Threat removal, she's got that covered with her hex bolts. She's got that covered with her natural 2 thwart. So for me, it's another one that is going to be a definite no. I do want to flip often with Wanda because she has so good threat removal. So if I was going to add any events, a 1 or 2 of in my deck, it would be the surprise attack. 1 to deal 4 damage, especially if I'm going to be running a... what's the punch? What's that stupid card there? I forget what it's called. Martial Prowess. There you go. If you're running a Martial Prowess, then that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I believe that flipping is a very good thing, but sometimes people that are playing aggression are like, oh no, I can't flip down. So as for events, I don't think this is going to be the event for you in aggression. But, maybe in the multiplayer, you're going to be the minion guy, and then all you have to do is take care of minions. So that could be an answer. Same for Relentless Assault. For me, it's an okay card, but like I said, I can deal damage with my hex bolts for 2. I can maybe do 2 damage here, maybe do 1 damage, maybe remove 2 threat. So again, these event cards for me, they just don't make the cut. There's a lot of events in her deck, but like even Browbeat, this is a card from her card pool. It's only if you're an Avenger, and then deal 2, 3, 4, or 5 damage, depending what stage number you're in. For me, this doesn't even come close to making the cut. Same for Piercing Strike. Unless the only time I would definitely play this, but I'll actually put in a suggestion that's going to be even better than that. So then Piercing Strike, we're going to look at it for this, but since she doesn't really attack that often, I would just say put in a Brute Force, because when you do need it, the piercing, you have it on the stick instead of having it as an event. And again, cards on the table are better because you see your stuff more often. Melee is not, again, another card that I probably wouldn't run unless there's a heavy minion scenario, and again, you're the guy that's dealing with minions. But again, your molecular bolts are just better cards for damage than this, and your hex bolts, again, better potential damage, and then the melee for what the cost is. One that I would include, though, if you are playing aggression, I would run at least 2, maybe 3 of these, the Into the Phrase in an aggression build for Shizzle. Just because it's threat mitigation in aggression versus some minions. Again, depending on the scenario, I think this is my favorite card in aggression right now. This is one that I kind of want to include in everything just because it's so good. It's just so good. So 6 damage and then remove some extra threat for all the overkill damage. So I kind of like it in combination with other things, but this is a definite 1, maybe 2, depending on how heavy your minions is. So, like, looking at the events, I'm not, as you notice, I haven't added a lot of events. Same thing for Uppercut. It's just my other events do more damage than an Uppercut, and then same for Dropkick. I wouldn't play for the Dropkick just to get the 1 card extra and the stun. I'd rather just play a Molecular Decay and then or again a Hex Bolt, and maybe I'll get it. So if I'm looking at the aggression events that I'm running in any type of build, it would be these. It would be Surprise Attack, and finally it would be 1 Moment of Triumph. These are the only events I would include in a build for even the rush, the aggression rush, like the supercharger one. All right, so there you go. So those are the 3 events that I feel that work the best with her, that can help remove threat, help remove minions, that kind of work more in synergy than hers. Let's look at the support cards. Again, depending on the scenario, if you are going to be the guy taking care of minions, just, like, oh, I'm going to do my hex bolts, and then hopefully I can just do all the damage. I'll reduce the things to do more damage, put status cards. Then I definitely recommend that you run the Hall of Heroes. Maybe if you're playing solo, obviously you're going to be the guy taking care of the minions most of the time. But if you're playing in multiplayer, just, communicate with your group. Say, hey guys, I'm minion guy. Once my Hall of Heroes is on the table, let me take care of the minions. And then because I want to make sure that when I flip down, I can get a super big hand and get those 3 counters on all the time. So Hall of Heroes is definitely a card that you want to include. The next one, Boot Camp. If I'm going to be running anything, I am definitely going to be running a Boot Camp because she has a lot of damage output towards her events. But if you combine this with the Avengers strategy, which is basically filling your deck up with 4 Avengers or 5 Avengers, and then having your allies do the damage for you, this is Boot Camp is definitely a card you want in your deck. And then there is the Tag Team. If there's room, put the Tag Team down. It's a good card. It's a support card. And again, with scenarios like Kang and stuff like that, where you don't mind if something like that, to protect something else, I call these protection cards. Not from the aspect protection, but if you have, let's say, a Queen Carrier, and then you have a Tag Team in play, and if you get the time travel hijinks, well, I'm protecting my Queen Carrier by just using this twice and then leaving it into play. And then if ever I get hijinks, because that's the highest cost card in my deck, is going to be my Queen Carrier. So definitely something to counterbalance with the highest cost cards. So just, again, thinking about what scenario you're playing against. These are things that I like to think about. But Tag Team, for me, if I'm going to be including, it's going to be one of. And if it's against anything but Kang, I wouldn't even run this, just to be honest. So Boot Camp. So definitely a Boot Camp and a Hall of Heroes as the support cards should be included in your deck. All right. Let's look at the upgrades. Now, again, we talked about being able to deal with minions with tough. So again, this is a force response, brute force. This is a one of for sure. If ever you have that molecular decay and you're like, oh man, he's tough, and I don't. Oh man. Well, there's 2 things that you can do. This just really helps to get rid of the tough, because you could always use your basic attack, obviously. But if you can actually do some damage as well, it's a permanent card. It gets out of your deck. So 1 brute force in your deck is probably not a bad idea. Now, if you don't really want to run a Hall of Heroes, or you don't really care, you could always run a couple of Lion Weights. Again, I'm very, very keen on on minion control. If that is your role in the group, if you are playing solo, I don't think I would run these. Maybe one of, just because. But after a minion engages you, discard Lion Weight and deal 3 damage to that minion. So I think it's a good card, especially anything that's a permanent that can come into play, stay there until you need it, for me is always a win, especially with a event heavy character. So I keep repeating this, but again, the strategies work, guys. All right. Battle Fury. I would run one. Again, it's most of the aggression decks. I always run one of these. You kill your guy, you thwart it for 2, and then that can help you actually control threat. Not to attack, because Hex Bolt wouldn't work with that. It would have to be with one of your other events. So actually, I don't even think I would run a Battle Fury with her. After your hero attacks and defeats a minion. So the only thing you can do is a molecular decay, or if you have one of those event cards that we talked about, like the Into the Fray or the surprise attack, then it makes sense. But you're flipping, I don't know. So yeah, I think Battle Fury's out for me, guys. I just, after thinking about it for 2 seconds there, I'm like, nope, it's out. Counterattack. Well, again, there's always going to be one game or one time you're going to take a big hit. Might as well shove it back in his face. So counterattack, always a one of in the deck. Actually, Enraged. Now, this is normally something I wouldn't recommend, but because of what's going on, so if you want to play a super cool Avengers support, I actually like this with Tigra. So what this is she can deal 2 damage and then heal for 1. So once she's killing minions. So with the boot camp and this, she's attacking for 5. So she kills 95% of every minion for 5. Bang. So she kills a lot, and I think it would make perfect sense. Whoops, I'm dropping cards here. If you're going to play Minion Destroyer and Avengers support, I think 1 Enraged in the deck makes a lot of sense. Again, what's the difference between 3 and 5? There's a couple of them that have 4. Again, depending on the scenario. Any minion that has 4, most, like I said, I think 75% of the minions have 3 or less. So just with the boot camp, she takes care of most of the minions. And then depending on the scenario, this would be a card that I would add for Tigra. If not, just forget about it. All right, Yonborn. I only play it just because it's a permanent, but she doesn't do too many attacks, unlike her brother. So Yonborn for me is not a card that I think about including with her. But it is a card. Let's say if I have like 39 cards, I'll put it in just to discard it. And if I ever happen to have, after Molecular Decay, just 1 card left in my hand, I'll pitch it. But again, it's a low cost upgrade. That's why I like it. But does it fit in this deck? Hells no. It's only if you like playing with Yonborn. You know, sometimes people like playing Yonborn and Mean Swing. Oh man, then I can make her attack for 4. It's okay. It's not horrible. I don't think it's the best synergy that you can find. But you know what? Again, people play how they want to play, so I'm not going to tell you how to play. I don't think it's the best bang for your buck, honestly, but if you like it, you play it, man. You do whatever. You do you, baby. You do you. But for me, Yonborn is a big pass for her. Definitely running that martial prowess. Those molecular decays, they only cost you 2 money. All right, so that is super good. So definitely running that martial prowess for those big attacks. And then the other hard pass is the combat training. Unless you're playing multiplayer, I don't even put these cards in. So that's the difference between solo and multiplayer. In solo, I'm ignoring these. In multiplayer, I'll probably add them for my other friends that are playing with me. If they have a attack heavy character. So if you're playing Wanda and Pietro, well, definitely you want to put a combat training for Quicksilver, obviously. All right, but would you run a martial prowess on Quicksilver? No, he has no attack events, so there's no point of doing that. So there you go. So just when you're building the decks, just kind of think about what character you're playing with, what your deck wants to do. And that's it, yeah. So for me, anything that generates resources for events, I think I like it. But again, like with Pietro, with Quicksilver, I would never recommend the martial prowess because there's no point. But with her, she's got those 3 big attack events, and being able to pay for them, it's good. Again, is it a necessary card? No, maybe you'll want to put something else in there. But I think it's a good card. It's a permanent. I love permanents that stay on the field and just make her events way more often coming on. Did my thing just move? Because my table looks... There you go. I think it looked crooked there. All right, and then finally, let's look at allies. And this is where I think this is where her best deck is going to come from. This is going to be... And this is what I believe, but you can prove me wrong. But Avengers support. So all you want to do with Scarlet Witch is do threat control, and you want to let your allies do the talking and beating the villain. And then once your allies, you got your 4 really strong allies in, and then you can just kind of rotate some of those allies. But after that, just run your molecular decays in your hex bolts and just always be laughing, man. But here's what you want. You want the cheap ones. You want Wasp. You want Spider-Girl. You want Hulk. Not to attack. Hulk never attacks. Hulk is just there as a blocker. He's a great minion blocker. Like he can block 5 minion attacks before he goes away. Spider-Girl is just come in, stun a minion, you know. And then Wasp is direct damage, which is really, really good. Tigra, like these are the ones you want to be running. All right. And then the last one I really like is Valkyrie. This is normally the 5 that I would be running. Okay, why 5? And then don't forget Quicksilver is an Avenger if you are playing in solo. So that is 6 Avengers in your deck. Okay, so that means you can have 4 on the field, and then you rotate 2. So basically, Tigra always wants to stay, and then all of the other ones you want to rotate. So Quicksilver stays and Tigra stays, and then there's 2 in, and then you just rotate the other 2 as they come in, and they should most of the time almost be free, because I would definitely recommend adding an Avengers Tower for there and a team building exercise, just so most of your allies are just free. So you're rotating these allies for free. Beep, 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 beep. And just come in and they deal the damage. They don't care. Retaliate. Don't care. Just come in. Deal damage. With the boot camp, attacking for 3, attacking for 3, attacking for 4, attacking for 3. It just makes perfect sense. Now, Steve, well, why wouldn't you rather run the other ones? Braun, I do like Braun. The problem is, if you're going to be running an Avengers teamed build, yes, he can deal 2 damage and thwart for 1 5 times. But then, unless I'm running an Avengers Tower, I can only have 3. So I don't like it. I'd rather have 4 allies, because basically it's basically a 4 against 1, 5 against 1 once you have those. And if you're losing at 5 on 1, you're in trouble. That means the villain's tough. But yeah, so for this, Braun for me, it's just because he's not an Avenger. And you said, well, Steve, can I just make him an Avenger? Yeah, if you want to do that, if you want to play Braun, honorary Avenger him, and just keep him in play with some first aids, he is basically 2 damage threat removal. Beautiful. He makes perfect sense, but this is like a 2-card combo deal. So is it optimum? Yes, no. I like playing my honorary Avengers on myself to bring my HP up. But this is, again, a very, very doable combo for extra threat removal. So her with her 2. So that's 3 threat removal in solo every turn, minimum. So that takes care of most of the side schemes. And then it can also take care of the main scheme when you need it. So definitely is a good potential here for what you want to do. But for me, again, I'm more of a strictly Avengers build, so that for me is good. Thor, again, if you want to run all these allies, I'd rather have the cheaper ones. Again, because of the Avengers Tower and team building exercise combo, they're coming out for 1 resource or for 2 or for 0 resources. So for me, those are better. But again, you feel free to run Thor, a Sentry, because Sentry can thwart for 2 as well, deal 4 damage. But again, I don't really want to keep that many of my allies in play. I want to rotate them and just kind of keep going. But if you want to add a couple of med teams, then definitely Sentry is a guy I would run if you're planning on keeping him there. Attacks for 4, thwarts for 2. He is definitely a contender if you want to change it up a little bit with your Avengers allies. Those that I would skip are She-Hulk and Hercules, just because. It's like it's way too expensive. Unless you're playing Green Goblin mutagen formula, then maybe he has a spot in your heart. If you like get overrun on turn 1 with like 3-4 minions, and then hey, he comes out for 1, done. But there you go. Aside from that, no. And She-Hulk is just, Yeah, her health, it goes up with every damage. So technically, if you have the boot camp, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5. So that's like 14 damage over 4 turns, which is not bad. For me, it's just like, it's a little slow. I'd rather just go with burn and churn, and the cost of 4 for me is just a little bit too expensive. So there you go, guys. So this is what my deck would look like. Again, I would be doing a lot of Avengers Assemble, not Avengers Assemble, Honorary Avengers. I would complement this. I'll build a deck right now, and I'll show you what my deck would be like in Aggression. If you want, I'll actually post a link to what a Scarlet Witch Aggression deck would look like for me, which is Scarlet and the Avengers, take on anything. All right, so give me 2 seconds. I'll put a deck up and I'll explain it. All right, guys, so here is what a Wanda Aggression deck would look like for me. I think it's a 42 card deck. So as for resources, it will be double powers of aggression and the tree double resources. For events, obviously all of her signature events, plus 2 into the phrase and a momentum shift. So again, I want to limit the number of events in my deck because the events I really want to play are the molecular decays and the hex bolts, because that is what is going to make her feel the most playable. So there you go. So only 3 event cards that I would add into the deck. As far as support cards, I am running a Hall of Heroes with a boot camp that is for support. As far as upgrades go, I'm thinking of brute force, counterattack, and the martial prowess. And again, the allies I want to run are Wasp, Spider-Girl, Tigra, Hulk, and Valkyrie. And then I want to add the complementary basic cards that I would run in upgrades is 3 honorary Avengers. I would be adding the Endurance. Do not forget the Sorcerer Supreme because she is a mystic. And then as extra supports, team building, Avengers Tower, and a Queen Carrier. And then the only other event I would run is Order and Chaos, so to have an extra counter spell in my hand to go with our Warp Reality. So that is the deck I would build. If you are a purist and you only want to have 40 cards in your deck, remove a Moment of Triumph and a what's the other one? Moment of Triumph and 1 into the fray, or if you want, remove 1 Moment of Triumph and the brute force. So those are the 2 that I would recommend removing if you want to be a 40 card deck. All right, so this is it, guys. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys like this video. Share, like, subscribe, please. If you have any other strategies that you'd like to see with Scarlet Witch Aggression, I believe this is the strongest deck build at the present time with the card pool for her deck in Aggression. I don't think you could get any more efficient than this. So please share, like, leave some comments. Let me know what you think about the deck. I'll post the CBD link in the thing. So guys, until next time, we're going to be doing protection after this. So keep on playing Marvel Champions, and I hope this helps you beat the game. Ciao, ciao.